I mean, you're living in your mother's basement writing a blog on finance. Really, you should stay off the computer, son, and get a job. Seriously.
Live from the basement of the YouTube headquarters, it's the Stacking Benjamin Show. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and remember that guy with a tattoo that said no regrets? What are the 5 things that would make you regret your retirement plan? We'll dive into all of them. But that's not all. We're coming down to crunch time in my year-long trivia contest between our frequent contributors. Will Jesse pull further ahead in his quest to end OG's 3-year reign of terror? Let's find out. And now, a guy who's on a huge winning streak, mostly because he gets to spend so much time with me, it's Joe Saul-Sehy.
Hey there, Stackers, and happy Friday to you. Welcome back to the Stacking Benjamin Show. I am Joe Saul-Sehy. Welcome to a show that is way better than the How to Money podcast. And that's because you're raising so much more money than those guys are for financial education. Our 501c3 that we're helping is called Gifting Sense, helping middle school age children learn how to make better money choices, all part of the Voices for Good charity challenge. We'll have a link in the show notes, and you know what? We're hoping to raise a lot of money, way more than Joel and Matt are at How to Money. And it's so fun talking about those great guys affectionately, like we're going to all month be picking on our friends Joel and Matt. But let's pick on this guy. Neighbor Doug did the intro today. How are you, my friend?
Way and Matt suck. I mean, do we even have to say affectionately?
They're horrible.
I mean, come on.
Our stackers are way better than those How to Money fans. Way.
They don't even have a cool name.
No.
For their fans.
Is it How to Moneyers? Money-ish?
Yeah.
But we got some cool people here with us. We want to meet those people.
Probably should do that soon.
Let's start off with a guy in upstate New York where summer just ended and now we're in the throes of winter. Jesse Cramer is here. How are you, man?
I think this is becoming every single intro. Every single intro is just about what season we're in. You're right. So they're still in the middle of road work season, though. They're still working on the roads, but they have another couple weeks because then we'll be under a couple feet of snow.
Yeah, snow season, road work season.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm doing well. I hope everyone's well on your end, too. But thank you for asking. I'm excited to be here today.
And that is the weather report from upstate New York. It has become
pounding your chest like you're in a helicopter while you give that.
Yeah.
And a gentleman joining us from the northern suburbs of Chicago, Mr. Jordan Grummett, aka Doc G, joins us. How are you, brother?
I'm good, man. You're talking crap about Matt and Joel, but if we're playing basketball, I'm picking Joel over you any day.
I'm picking Joel over me as well when it comes to, but raising money. I mean, Stacking Benjamin's fans are way more philanthropic than How to Money people. I mean,
for those of you who don't know, Joel's quite tall.
He is quite tall. Yes. Jesse, you're quite tall. Every time I see Jesse, I'm like, I forget how tall you are. How tall are you, Jesse?
6'3" if I'm wearing like basketball shoes, 6'2" if I'm wearing no shoes at all.
And then
I played some basketball back in my day. Not good enough to play in any meaningful way, but I was pretty serious about it at one point.
I mean, hold on here. I'm 6'1" with heels. Joe, you're 6'1". Jesse's 6'3". I mean, I think we got a team here.
Yeah, that's right. we do. And you know what, Doug? We've got a ringer today who'd be the best player on this team by far. Easily by far. She is the co-host of the Frugal Friends podcast. It's about time she's been on our roundtable. Jill Siriani's here. How are you?
I'm doing well. I am ready to bring all 5'6" of myself into that court.
I was about to say, I'm not much taller than that, so I think she'd probably hoop on me.
She would be the Muggsy Bogues of this team. She'd be a powerhouse under the boards boxing out.
Every team needs a point guard,
I
Jill.
got grit.
That's right. What's going on over at Frugal Friends? You sold your house and you've been making waves online because apparently people think that's baloney, Jill.
Yeah, it's been wild to see all of the different opinions, but it was my choice, my decision. It was, I believe, the best financial decision for me. I've just been loving life, doing the apartment life. Who knows if I'm going to rent for forever, but right now it's been really great.
Let's take just a second. Why did you make that decision?
Multiple reasons, but honestly, one of the ones was realizing that I would not pay capital gains tax. I'm sure this is old news for the rest of you, but it was newer news for me to
It's like, wait,
recognize
what?
that, I thought that I'd have to reinvest the money. We live in a flood risk area. And so after the hurricanes that happened last year, it just kind of raised awareness for me of the level of risk and liability we're taking on every year. But I'm like, I love my house. I never want to leave it, until I realized, yeah, but I have a lot of equity, build a lot of equity in 5 years, and I'd be able to keep that and not need to roll it into another house and invest it for retirement. So funny that we're talking about retirement today.
That's not nearly as exciting as I hoped it would be, Jill. I was looking
so
for
sorry.
like a haunting, maybe, or like smells you just could not get rid of. I mean, some completely pragmatic, practical reason. Snore.
Are you projecting, Doug? Are you projecting it all right now?
There might be smells.
very well, might be smells, which is why Doug is at the far end of the card table, Jesse. The far end of the card table. We got a great show today, guys. We're going to talk about what one CFP says are the 5 regrets that people have if they don't do enough planning for retirement. We're going to dive into these. You don't need to have this open in front of you, stackers, but if you want to, you can head to our show notes page at stackingbenjamins.com and bring it up. But we will take care of all the heavy lifting. We'll tell you what all 5 of these are, and we will dive in with Jill, Jesse, Doc G, Doug, and I. First, though, we have a couple of sponsors to make sure we can keep on keeping on, and you don't pay for any of this goodness on this amazing first Friday of November. So sit back and relax. We're going to hear from them. And then Jill, Jesse, Doc G, Doug, and I going to dive into the 5 regrets of inadequate retirement planning. Spring cleaning's made its way to my closet. This time of year always makes me rethink exactly what's in my closet. Really want to keep fewer things, but I also want to keep better ones. I want to feel confident, and to feel confident, looking the part's a big piece of that. So I want pieces that are well made and that are easy to wear all the time. And that's why I keep coming back to Quince. The fabrics feel elevated. The fits are thoughtful. Pricing actually makes sense. As I'm swapping out and I'm cutting, the few additions I'm making all come from Quince. Quince makes high quality everyday essentials using premium materials like 100% European linen. They're insanely soft, flow knit activewear fabric. Their men's linen pants and shirts are lightweight. They're breathable. They're comfortable. Basically the perfect layer for spring. The pants strike the right balance between laid back and refined. If you saw the video of me on stage at Retire Meet, those pants are from Quince. It was really cool. I came off stage and Christine Benz from Morningstar getting ready to go on behind me and said, "Love your pants." Not generally. I absolutely love them. I think they make me look put together without trying too hard. And they're flow knit activewear, moisture wicking, anti-odor, soft enough that you'll actually want to wear it all day. The best part is their prices. This is important, stackers. They are 50 to 60% less than similar brands. How? Quince works directly with ethical factories, cuts out the middlemen, so you're paying for quality, not brand markup. Everything's designed to last and make getting dressed easy, which is another thing I think we all want. I love those pants that I wore on stage. It's the cashmere sweater that every time I wear it, Cheryl goes, "That is my favorite sweater on you." It looks great, feels great, and I don't have to have 50 things in my closet. So, like I am, refresh your wardrobe with Quince. Go to quince.com/SB for free shipping and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada, too. Go to QUINCE.com/SB for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/SB. You may not know that when we started Stacking Benjamins, it was a blog. And even then, just the startup cost, I remember thinking, is this the right thing? And what if I write things and nobody comes, right? Well, luckily, that didn't end up happening. But starting something new isn't just hard. It's terrifying. There's so much work. You're not sure whether it's going to work out. You're not sure if anybody's going to read it. And then we change it to a podcast. Is anybody actually going to listen, right? what if nobody wants all the stuff that we have? Well, had I used Shopify, it would have been even easier, because with their expertise, their helpful tools, and their easy to use platform, that's something that would have made Stacking Benjamins more effective much, much more quickly. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the U.S. Names you've heard of like Heinz and Mattel, Shopify, Gymshark, Aviator Nation, Allbirds, also all Shopify. Get started with your own design studio with hundreds of ready-to-use templates. Shopify helps you build a beautiful online store that matches your brand style. And best yet, Shopify is your commerce expert with world-class expertise in everything from managing inventory to international shipping to processing returns and beyond. And did I mention that iconic purple Shop Pay button? It's used by millions of businesses around the world. It's why Shopify has the best converting checkout on the planet. It also helps boost conversions, meaning less carts going abandoned and more sales for you. So you're stacking Benjamins much more quickly. Time to turn those what ifs into with Shopify today. Sign up for your $1 per month trial today at shopify.com/SB. Go to shopify.com/SB. That's shopify.com/SB. All right, today's piece came to us from Go Banking Rates, the CFP that wrote, okay, does anybody else groan when they read these pieces that say, I'm a financial planner, 5 retirement moves? I'm like, did I need to know you're a financial planner before all that? Anybody? Just me? Jesse?
Blame the editor, Joe.
They never say I'm a podcaster. I'm a podcaster. These are 5 retirement moves.
I live in my mom's basement. Here are 5 of my regrets.
Yeah, how come they never ask me? I work in mom's basement. Here's what I regret. This is 5 retirement moves that you'll regret in 10 years. I don't want to get into specifically what these 5 are, but what I do want to do is this. There's people listening to this that are in their 20s, that are in their 30s, and they're like, really? We're going to talk retirement today? This is an hour that I might not need. But Doc G, when do you think, people need to start making some of these good decisions and building some of these habits that we're going to be talking about the next hour?
I mean, I think you need to start right away. A lot of us make the mistake of concentrating on retirement as this defined moment where you leave work and everything is good. But I think we more need to look at it as we're continuously building a better life, which may or may not include work. It may or may not include hobbies and other things. We need to start thinking kind of early in our career. What are the kind of big things we want to do? How do we want to keep ourselves busy? Some of that's going to be work. Some of that's going to be other stuff. And the hope is that when you do eventually get to retirement in the sense where you're not working, especially for an employer anymore, you've got this well-defined sense of things you like to do. And then you just gently move into doing more of that.
Jill, one of the things we're going to talk about here, I'll preview just a little bit, is focusing on your budget a little bit, something you guys have talked about. But what's funny is just watching you and your co-host Jen from afar, your opinions of budgeting over the years have changed. I feel like if you start thinking about retirement early, maybe your feelings will change the same way that your feelings about budgeting have changed.
Yeah, I think we've transitioned from calling a budget a spending plan. We still use the terms interchangeably, but I think it's important to know that there is flexibility in all of it and to kind of remain a little bit agile for that. I think certainly learning how to create a spending plan that works now will only follow us into retirement, but also learning some of those different flexibilities, learning how to spend around the things that we value can be really important for us down the road as well.
Well, yeah, we're going to talk a lot about values today. Jesse, it's funny, Jill brought in flexibility. It kind of strikes me that when people are new to any of these topics, they're like, so what are the rules? And we tend to think in terms of hard and fast rules, which I think is good. Like if you're trying to bake a cake for the first time, following the recipe step by step makes sense. But later on, because you've studied it for so long, you know what to break. So I don't know. What do you think? You're in there talking to people in the financial planning trenches every day.
I am. As you were just asking me that question, Joe, you're reminding me of this conversation I've had before about our friend and colleague, Dave Ramsey, who some people have heard of him.
Good friend. Big fan of the show, by the way. Big fan.
Yeah. He's been compared to a Sith Lord before, Darth Vader, Darth Maul, Darth Sidious, because he deals in absolutes, right? Only a Sith deals in absolutes, as the Jedi would say. And Dave Ramsey's all about dealing these absolutes. No debt, right? No debt, no debt, no debt. And not that I want to be a Dave Ramsey defender, because most of the time I'm not, but there's a certain subset of the population, whether it's just because they just work better inside of very strict frameworks, or because this is totally undiscovered territory, unexplored territory for them. They need some rigidity. They need some rules, as you just asked about, Joe. So I think for some people, there's nothing wrong with hard and fast rules to get them going on the journey. And then once they learn more, that's where maybe some of the flexibility can start to come into play. But I think there's a place for both.
What's funny is we do this live on YouTube. And if you want to hang out with us, we generally record these on Monday. We're not here on Monday this week, but normally Monday afternoons. And B. Wayne hanging out with us says, leave work and then everything is good. Talking about retirement, just leave work and everything is good. And back when I was a financial planner, B. Wayne, it's interesting. People would kind of treat it that way. And because of that, they go, oh, wait a minute. There's all this planning that maybe I should have done 10 years before I decided to leave work that I could have gotten done, and leaving work would have been a lot more fun than it ended up being. So let's dive into these. Number one is choosing the wrong investment allocation. Let's start with you, Jordan, choosing the wrong investment allocation.
Oh, and I'm totally guilty of this. So my wife wasn't sure when she was going to retire, and I thought we had more time. And then earlier this year, she decided to retire within a few months. The issue with that is actually my asset allocation wasn't really in a place that it should have been for retirement. So we were way too equities heavy. Our bond allocation was much lower than I probably would have wanted. Some of it was laziness. Some of it wasn't coming to terms that she was going to make the decision that fast. And so we went from accumulation to decumulation very quickly. And ideally, we would have had much more safe assets, things like bonds that weren't moving up and down as much with the market. We ended up being okay, right? The timing actually worked out. Equities were high. We were able to sell at the appropriate time. But I think a lot of people make this mistake of not planning 5 to 10 years ahead and slowly moving to the asset allocation you think is going to be appropriate for retirement, as opposed to trying to do it last minute when all of a sudden you're making the decision.
So you're saying that would have been better had you done it slowly.
Yeah.
You think would have been a much better move.
And if we were really stuck in that place and let's say equities were at all-time lows and we decided to change our asset allocation at the time, we would have, again, it would have been the wrong time to do it. It wouldn't have been appropriate economically.
Jill, Jordan talks about being too aggressive in his allocation. And yet in this piece, they talk about the opposite, which is people get way too conservative. Like they stay way too conservative. They should have their assets working harder than they really are.
Yeah. When I read this first one, choosing the wrong investment allocation, I think I freaked out a little bit, like, oh no, what do I need to know? And I think that can be one of the fears for most people who don't have a solid grasp on investing strategies. But I think we can overcomplicate it too. I mean, I think it's important to talk about how we can find ourselves in both extremes, but I think it's most important to understand both our time horizon and our risk tolerance, and then be able to make the decisions that are necessary within that. But I mean, for me, I can absolutely relate. I think I'm a little bit more on the conservative end, even though I do still have like decades before I end up retiring. And so that is one of my own personal concerns of how do I make sure that I am being risky enough, given the fact that, I've got a time horizon of about 25 years to go still. And this is where we really like to recommend seeking out those certified financial planners that you apparently do not like, Joe.
I like the advice in the piece. I just don't like I'm a financial planner, colon.
I can appreciate that. But I do appreciate the credibility and the credentialing. And so I think if we are finding ourselves unsure, having that second opinion from somebody who does know what they're talking about, who is a fiduciary, I personally prefer fee only would be recommended. You can just consult. You don't have to be handing over your whole portfolio to somebody.
No. Well, and that's an important distinction, because I think just getting that second opinion by somebody that at least has been there and they know that, this is kind of the road ahead makes a ton of sense to me. Jesse, I got to believe that in your career, when you see people, because you get to look kind of behind the curtain, right? And see people that are too aggressive versus people that are too conservative? Which one do you see more often?
Which one have I seen more often? I don't know. I guess I've seen both. Probably people who are more too conservative would be I think that's a little more frequent. Someone who comes in, maybe they're still working at the very, or if not, they're kind of in the early years of retirement, and something like 60 or 70% of their portfolio is in cash and bonds, something like that. I know everyone's unique and yada, 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 all the things you're supposed to say there. But most of the time, right, if you have someone who's still working, if you have someone who's in the early first years of their retirement, to have that much of a portfolio in a conservative asset is probably means you're too conservative overall. But one thought I do
Why
have.
do you think that? Wait a minute. Before we get to your thought,
yeah.
Why do you think that is? Do you think it's that we just don't know what to do, so we put it in a place that we think is safe? Right? Air quotes safe, because frankly, there's no safety in putting your money in a savings account long term. You're safely going to earn no money.
Yeah.
I also
Go
think
ahead, Doc.
I was going to say, I also think the financial media sells this kind of 70, 30, 60, 40 thing. And a lot of people don't realize that's not probably appropriate for a young person who's just starting to invest. So we're starting to talk about retirement portfolios. So some people don't recognize the fact that your portfolio is going to look different at different parts of your career and different parts of your trajectory.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. But yeah, going back to your question, Joe, I do think a lot of time there's that I know I can screw myself up. If I put money in the stock market, I know that I can potentially lose it. And the idea of it's loss aversion, right? This is behavioral finance 101. The idea of losing money scares me more than the idea of growing my money compels me. And therefore, I don't really like the idea of stocks because that loss is too real. Putting it in cash or some sort of bond or some sort of certificate of deposit, like, okay, all else being equal, I don't want, this is going to sound a little bit mean or rude, and I don't intend it to. But when someone comes to me with a large portion of their net worth in certificates of deposit, that tells me something about the way that they see the world, about the way that they understand or don't understand the stock market. And maybe, there's an opportunity for education there. But I do think that's what it is at the end of the day, Joe.
I think it's the way we just look at risk. Yeah. We think about the risk of loss aversion, but we don't think about loss of goal aversion, which can be every bit as big if we leave the money in a quote safe place forever. By the way, I felt like I'm going to give myself a pat on the back. I feel like I did a great job of introducing this topic, but I did a horrible job, is the other side, of introducing why I picked this for the three of our contributors today. And it's because while Jesse does this full time and meets with people, Jill does the podcast full time, but Jill, you're not a CFP. You're not a financial planner. So you kind of are living this along with a lot of people. And Doc G is more on the philosophical side. I think, Jill, when it comes to the budgeting, spending, and some of the tax stuff, I feel like that's like the fact that you woke up to taxes kind of cracks me up.
Yeah, I'm actually studying to become a CFP. So a lot of this is top of mind for me. But yeah, I will represent the every girl today.
Yeah, no, and that's exactly what I am glad that you said that, because that's specifically why I like having you on, because we're having a lot of the same feelings that a lot of our stackers are having as they broach all of these topics. So that's number one, is that we have the wrong investment allocation. So, we're not going to solve investment allocation today, but Doc G, when you went looking for that better allocation, where's a good place for our stackers to start?
I think there are a lot of good retirement books out there, podcasts, blogs. I mean, I think as well as getting financial advice, right? You don't have to have a financial advisor who charges an AUM, but you can get one-time financial advice, et cetera. And I think if you're looking, so if you were kind of been steadily accumulating and you're not sure where your asset allocation should be, especially as you're 5 or 10 years out of retirement, that's the time to pay for some financial advice. Sit down with an expert and say, okay, these are my long-term goals. This is when I'd like to retire, and really try to figure out what looks like a good asset allocation for you that should allow you to transition gently into retirement, as well as have your cash needs fulfilled. But of course, we're in retirement, so we need cash flow and we need growth. And that's why I think getting some professional help, especially at that time, well before you're actually leaving the workplace, is important.
Let's move into the second one of these 5, which is on their list, not optimizing for taxes in retirement. And Jill, you're studying for the CFP, like you said, but but I want to go to you just because of what you said about taxes earlier. When you read this, not optimizing for taxes in retirement, what was your first thought?
Realizing that there is so much to know about what is taxed in retirement. I think for a lot of us, we are so accustomed to, at least, even the audience that we talk to, they're W-2 employees. They are accustomed to a pretty simple tax structure year over year. And so I think the transition into retirement can be a little bit surprising that, oh, there are new things for me to know and realize and recognize as I'm now in retirement, what these different retirement accounts are going to be doing for me, how they are taxed differently, and that there are strategies to be implemented to be as tax optimized, tax efficient as possible. And so I don't think that we have to be experts on this. I don't think that all of us have to be studying for the CFP to do this well, but I think it's important to realize that there is strategy to be implementing here to have a good generalized understanding of that. Again, seek out those professionals, read the books, listen to the podcasts, but recognizing that there are different stipulations for each one was an important one for me.
Yeah, I think it is for a lot of people. It even says in the piece, CFP Matthew Borston says, many retirees are used to being W-2 employees, so the tax thing's already handled, right? And we get to retirement, Doc, and it's the very first time that we go, oh, wait a minute. There's some tax strategy. You might be in your 60s, and it's the first time that you've needed a real, quote, tax strategy in your entire life.
I agree with that, but I also want to go against the grain with this one a little bit.
Boy.
I think we let the tax tail wag the wealth dog too often. I know people who endlessly argue about traditional IRA versus Roth IRA, and they spend years going back and forth with this. And the truth of the matter is, especially because we don't know the future, we don't know what tax rates are going to be in the future, we don't know what legislation is going to happen in the future, there is a point where you can go too far with tax optimization. And a lot of times people pretend like tax trade-offs are for free, and they're not. Let me give you a perfect example of that. People talk about real estate, and they say, well, I can buy real estate, rent it out, which is its own thing. And let's say it wasn't a pain and you could do it easily. And then they're like, well, then I can take depreciation, which means I'm going to pay very little tax. And then whenever I want to sell that building, I can buy a new one and we can do, a 1031 exchange. And they talk about all this as if you're escaping the tax man. And it is true. If you hold that real estate till you die, you will escape the tax man. But most people will eventually sell the real estate. They'll have depreciation recapture. They're eventually going to have to pay capital gains. You can defer taxes and you can be smart with your taxes, but you don't escape the tax man. So my only warning is it's not worth spending decades complaining, worrying, and being concerned with taxes. It makes sense to get about the best 80% you can, hire the right people, but then have some peace that, if you converted tons to your Roth IRA or if you didn't, it'll probably all be fine. I think sometimes we have to let go of some of this tax optimization fear. There are consequences to all the moves you make. And generally, it's really hard to totally escape taxes. You can die. You can HSA.
There's a win. Are you saying you win by dying?
You win by dying, right? Step up basis for the people who inherit. And if you happen to have some real estate, you're never going to have to pay those taxes. If it's inherited to your children, they won't have to pay the depreciation recapture, et cetera. You can do an HSA. It's a small win, but HSAs are clear wins in our tax system. But the rest is a lot less clear. And so even tax gain and tax loss harvesting, there are consequences to all this. And it's just something you have to think about.
The HSA is a great one. I'm glad you brought that up because I know people hear us money nerds go on and on about how kick-ass the HSA is. And I know there's stackers out there that I've talked to one-on-one and they freak out because they don't have an HSA available to them. And you know what the lesson is? You're going to be okay. You'll be okay. Even if you don't have an HSA. You'll be fine. By the way, Dave in South Carolina hanging out with us on YouTube, who is on the same boat as you, Doc, says, be smart, but don't let the tax, as you were saying it, he was putting it on the screen. By the way, this is Dave Ramsey in South Carolina.
Great mind.
Yeah.
Great mind.
Dave Ramsey hanging out with us here on the YouTube machine. Jesse, let's bring you into this tax discussion because this idea of tax optimization anyway, how do we know where the hell we're going to be so we know what we're optimizing for?
The short answer is you don't. And I think the best practice that I've learned from folks who I work with and that I've seen, multiple times from smart people in this community is you plan based on today's assumptions, meaning like, Jordan brought up a really good point, which is that we don't know what tax rates are going to be in the future. But general financial planning practices, you assume today's rates in someone's retirement plan as you're doing those kind of projections. Financial planning is nothing more than making a set of assumptions, making the best assumptions that you can based on today's knowledge, but then slowly but surely realizing how wrong your assumptions have been over time and adjusting those assumptions as you go along. It's about understanding the range of outcomes, right? It's not about firing a bullet at the one single outcome that your retirement will be, but it's about defining the range of possible outcomes there. But taking a step back, I think this is kind of funny. Only the article was written and saying, these are the top 5 regrets that I've seen from retirees 10 years in. I'll be honest, I've never seen, read, spoken to, or heard a retiree saying, you know what's really stuck in my craw? Goddamn tax optimization. Just saying. I will, however, that being said, the work that I do, it's like tax optimization is a bigger value add for almost every single client than something like investment allocation. Like investment allocation is kind of quote unquote easy. It's been solved, or it doesn't take that much work to optimize someone's investment allocation. Whereas, boy, the kind of things you can do on a long-term tax planning point of view, there's a lot of work there. Some of it's a little complex, and there's a lot of low-hanging fruit that I'd say the average retiree probably isn't aware of.
Well, with investment allocation, Jesse, I mean, Jill, you said this earlier. With investment allocation, sometimes having a ton of stuff, Jesse, just makes it worse. It doesn't make it better.
A ton of stuff? Sorry, say that again. What do you mean by a ton of
different investments? If you make,
right.
I think, Jill, you said like it doesn't need to be super complicated, your investment allocation, to be good. I've seen people with like 30 different things, and they used to come into my office and go, well, what the hell am I doing? I'm like, I don't know. I was wondering the same thing. You've got so much junk all over the place. What's the plan? So difficult. All right, let's come back to this piece. I think this is why I don't like tax optimization stackers as much as I like tax flexibility, where we have a little bit of everything. Because we, take some today with pre-tax, have some on the shelf for later by going with a Roth or after-tax strategy, and some money that's flexible, because we just don't know where we're going to be. We don't know where tax rates are going to be. I'm kind of with Eddie, who's in the comments saying that he thinks that we're going to be in higher tax brackets later. But who knows, Jordan?
Yeah, I was just going to say, one of my points I was thinking of as we were talking about this, and we really give short shrift, but I think we should talk more about it. It's actually tax status diversification, which is exactly what you were just talking about.
Yeah.
It's having some money in your brokerage account. It's having some money in your totally tax deferred traditional IRA. It's having some money in your Roth. That's probably the best risk modification for when you get to retirement.
For me, it's just so much better planning. But speaking of better, we'd better, at the halfway point of this show, have our year-long competition. Was I kind of shoehorning that, Doug?
Yeah, not your finest moment there, Joe.
Speaking of bad transitions, let's do one now. We have this year-long trivia competition between our 3 frequent contributors. OG's not here, but we do have a G. We got Doc G here, so he's going to be playing for OG. Mr. Jesse Cramer, who's here in person, and Team Paula Pant. And Jill, you get to be Team Paula Pant, so we keep the G's together and keep the cool people together, Jill and Paula. Jill, as the guest here, because Jordan's kind of a frequent flyer, when it comes to this competition we're having, we have some good news and some bad news for you when it comes to being on Team Paula. Do you want the good news or the bad news?
Bad news first.
Well, the bad news is you're in last place. So,
Okay.
Doug, tell Jill and all our
It's only up from here.
That's right. Tell Jill and our stackers what the score is so far this year.
Well, Jill, right now, Jesse is out to a moderate lead. Used to be commanding, but he's at 13.5 points, just ahead of fellow substitute teacher here today, Doc G/OG, who's sitting on 12 points. You have the unenviable position of having just 9.5 points.
Okay.
But if you get to 10.5, there's still 2 months left, Jill. So Team Jill/Paula could be in the race. Who knows? That also means the good news is you get to go last because you're in last place. So you don't have to guess first. Jesse's going to guess first, then Doc G. But we need a trivia question to get us there. So Doug, what's on your mind today, man?
Well, hey there, stackers. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and it was on today's date way back in 1492 that the biggest news from that year happened. What was it, you ask? Well, I'll tell you. Yeah, but I'm sure you already know. A boy witnessed a fireball falling from the sky near the town of Saul-Sehy, France. They gotta change the name of that town. Wait, what were you thinking of? Well, anywho, I'm sure that kid immediately saw dollar bills, yo, once that rock hit the turf. Reminds me of that time back when I was a young boy. I thought I saw a dollar bill, but it turned out to be on a duck. I mean, how can a duck bill and a dollar bill be so different? Oh, speaking of dollar, I also saw a buck, but that was on a deer. It's so confusing. Fine, all right. Getting back to the trivia. Jeez, thinking that something filled with radiation falling out of the sky was good luck, because that would be my first thought, villagers began breaking the meteor apart to grab a piece of it until town officials stopped them, not because of the radiation, but because they wanted to put gates around it and charge everyone $5 to see it. And by bucks, I don't mean deer.
My goodness.
Fine, I'll get back to it. Here's today's question. Let's say that the meteor, instead of landing in a field, had landed on a house. If the homeowner filed a claim and it had happened today, and not been the biggest news from 1492, as has been well established, how much would that homeowner, on average, expect their annual homeowner's insurance cost to rise? Well, this has got to be the clearest question, easiest question I've ever asked. I'll be back right after I go see if I can find some cold, hard cash. I found some last winter. It was just pennies frozen in the old mill pond.
Oh, wait.
Such cold cash.
Hard cold cash.
Cold cash.
Whoops. There it is. All right. Thank you.
Look at Jesse shaking his head.
So, hold on.
Jesse's like, I gave up my afternoon for this.
The last one I remember that was like this was all about Joe Louis. Like, all the preamble was about Joe Louis. And then the question ended up being, if Joe Louis had a title fight today, what would the Ticketmaster fees be?
Yes.
And it's like, what's on the preamble? The question is, what are Ticketmaster fees? And this question was so convoluted that I'm not even sure I know what the question was, if a meteor hit your house today.
You mean brilliant. That's what you mean is brilliant.
So if it took out your house completely, right? The meteor has to like take out your house.
No, the core of the question is, if you filed a homeowner's insurance claim this year, how much can you expect on average in the U.S., by the way, your homeowner's policy cost to go up by after that?
Is that a percentage or
no,
a dollar?
Dollars. How many dollars on average?
Today's dollars.
Do you expect your
Not
bill to go up by?
$14.92.
The average homeowner in America.
Monthly or annually?
Annually.
Okay.
It's Jill. Oh, she's going last.
Jill's going last.
I just wanted to scare her for a minute. Jill, you're up. It's your turn.
It worked.
I mean, I got an answer, but I'm going to wait it out.
I'm going to say $622.
Average person sees their costs go up by $622 after their first claim. Doc, what are you going to do with that?
I think it's a little bit lower. The question is, I'm going to say $550.
$550. So Jill,
Are we the closest without going over? How does this work?
Just the closest. Yeah. We used to do not going over, but I got to tell you, the stackers got very angry about that. They wanted to just be closest. We worry about the big things here at Stacking Benjamins, whether we're doing closest without going over or just closest.
We don't even worry about if the trivia is right.
I'm going to say $470 annually.
Now, that sounds like you carefully researched that.
I've had an insurance claim recently.
Darn it. You brought in a ringer.
It's like, I might know something about this. All right. Jill says $470. Doc says $550. Jesse let it off with $622. Who's closest? We're going to let you know in just a second. Dell PCs with Intel Inside are built for the moments you plan and the ones you don't. There for those all-night study sessions, the moment you're working from a cafe and realize every outlet's taken, the times you're deep in your flow and can't be interrupted by an auto update. That's why Dell builds tech that adapts to you. Built with long-lasting batteries so you're not scrambling for an outlet, and built-in intelligence that makes updates around your schedule, not in the middle of it. Find technology built for the way you work at Dell.com/Dell PCs. Built for you.
You're listening to this podcast, so I know you've got a curious mind. Here's a helpful fact you may not know yet. Drivers who switch and save with Progressive save over $900 on average. Pop over to Progressive.com, answer some questions, and you'll get a quick quote with discounts that are easy to come by. In fact, 99% of their auto customers earn at least one discount. Visit Progressive.com and see if you can enjoy a little cash back. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $946 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2024 and May 2025. Potential savings will vary.
Hey there, I'm Paula Pan. I help people make the smartest money decisions possible.
Do not ever worry about your salary. You need enough to make sure that you aren't in a bad financial position. Once you have that, your salary becomes moot. What matters from that point forward, upside gains. Any type of ownership stake or ownership potential, that's the money.
Remember, you can afford anything, just not everything. Afford anything. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
Jesse, you kicked this off by saying you thought the average homeowner's claim set your costs skyrocketing by $622. Now that all of the guesses are in, how you feeling?
Well, I borrowed OG's protractor, and I was measuring the angle of a meteorite streaking across the sky as it impacted my roof, and it was 6.22 degrees. So if I'm wrong, I think that's probably a Joe Saul-Sehy problem, because I think I have to be right.
Wow. By the way, Doug, if he's right and the answer is $622, Jesse, I'm coming through the screen at you.
Yeah.
I'll be coming through the screen.
That's a bad day.
Doc G, you followed up with $550, which put you squarely in the middle. How you feeling now?
I'm feeling like I won't be in last place, which is very comforting. I'm not going to be the worst guesser, which for me is a step up. I think this one's tight. Anyone could win. Jesse took away all options because he guessed first last time and hit it on the dot, which means that I had no responsibility for being wrong because I lost right out the gate then.
If he does that 2 weeks in a row, Doc,
I'd still feel justified because then I had no chance.
Because then you're still...
As long as I'm off the hook, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Trey has a great question here that says, insurance now goes up every year anyway, so how can you differentiate if it's from a claim? The cost of homeowners insurance going up so quickly. Well, people at Policy Genius did it for you, Trey, so we're taking their word for it. And Jill, you came in with $470, puts you on the low end. You feeling good?
Oh, yeah. Unrealistically optimistic. I'm about to take this W.
Perfect.
Listen to that.
I like the confidence. Joe, I like the where has she been this whole time? I like the confidence.
Yeah, but this is Paula every week.
I'm bringing the Paula energy.
I don't know if Paula has that kind of swagger. I mean, that is Jill's walking funny. She's got so much swagger.
It's big PE, big Paula
That's
energy.
right.
That is true. But we have asked Paula, though, Jill, we're like, how can your gut be wrong 10 years in a row? I have no idea. We're going to find out which one of you is right. Is Jill swagger deserved? Is Jesse going to get it on the head? Is Doc G going to finish second? Doug, who's taking home this prize?
Hey there, stackers. I'm cold hard cash collector and guy who unintentionally went ice fishing, Joe's mom's neighbor Doug. Back in 1492, the biggest news of the year by far was that a young boy watched a meteor fall from the sky and bury itself a meter deep in a field near the walled town of Ensisheim, France. A meter deep. Nobody knows how far a meter is anyways. Maybe that should have been our trivia question. Had that meteor landed on a house and the owner had filed a claim and it had happened this year, how much would the lucky person's homeowner's insurance have risen?
Lucky. So lucky.
I mean, I'll take the insurance premium increase because you know how much money you're making if a meteor falls on your house? That is a no-brainer.
charge an entrance.
Anyway, what I can tell you is that premium would have increased $454 fewer dollars than what Jesse guessed, $382 fewer than what Doc G guessed, just $302 less than what Jill guessed, because according to Policy Genius, the correct answer is $168 per year, making Jill, more importantly, making Paula our winner today.
Jill with the swagger.
Damn, girl.
You're welcome, Paula.
But did you see who was in second?
Yes. Yes.
You weren't wrong, Jordan.
The real winner today.
Jill, you have an acceptance speech because Paula wins so rarely. I think we need an acceptance speech.
I want to thank my fans. I want to thank the tree that fell on my own garage that prepared me for today. I'm feeling on top of the world.
Oh, congratulations.
And listeners, I would encourage you to go to Google Maps, look up Ensisheim, France, and you'll see on the map is labeled the meteor impact. There
is a spot.
It is the saddest thing you'll ever see. It's the worst monument I'm just like, as a town, if that's what you're bringing, you just need to invite Euro Disney there, because there's just nothing to look at. It's a rock on a tree stump. Swear to God.
B. Wayne hanging out with us says it's comeback time. It is comeback time. It's the fourth quarter. Jill's here for Team Paula. Nice job.
You can expect this in my basketball skills too. Let's go.
And Trey says, great job, Jill. So you're saying Paula's got a chance?
She is.
Paula's got a chance.
3 full points behind cheater Jesse.
All right, let's dive into the second half of this. We actually have 3 to go, but this one I think we can do fairly quickly. The third regret people have when it comes to their estate plan, 10 years later, they regret, Jordan, not updating their estate plan.
Yeah, I mean, this is a big one. We don't know what's going to happen. And I have to tell you, anyone who understands this stuff, like we all listen to the podcast, et cetera, I can't tell you how much stress people carry around for years because they haven't updated their estate plan, and yet they don't do it. And so I think we carry a lot of stress with it. Basic estate planning is easy. Some people try to do it on your own. I think your best thing to do is hire a lawyer. My wife had one of those companies where she paid a little extra every year to have legal coverage. And so we did it twice in the last 5 years, right before she left her current job. And I think it's a huge relief. So just forget all the bad things that can happen, just from the stress relief of getting it done and feeling good about it, it's totally worthwhile.
I felt so good when I got my estate plan done. Jill, have you had time to do yours?
Oh, no. I'm sitting here like, yeah, gotta do it. The best that I have is life insurance. That was a big one for me, but this is next on my list. I do view it as one of those financial self-care pieces that is so important. I think one of the reasons that I've been slow going with it is just not having kids. But I think recognizing that there's still my husband who would be left behind. And there's so many important aspects to an estate plan that this is a good reminder, a good little nudge for me.
But you did one great piece of this that they even mentioned in the piece, which is putting beneficiaries on your stuff and getting life insurance. Those are 2 big things. So you've covered 2/3 of it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Jesse, I don't know. When I was a financial planner, I saw people avoid this so often. And I think it's not going to happen to me syndrome.
Yeah, it is. Sorry, I was distracted by Eddie's comment in the chat. No offense, Jill. But Eddie, she's not too young.
She's young.
I will say,
but she's not too
She's young. Yes, totally. But not too young. And Jill, I do actually think you made an incredibly important point.
And by the way, let's read the full comment here so people know what the hell we're even talking about. Eddie says she's too young to worry about estate plans.
She's too young. Stop doing what you're doing to her.
She's not 22. She's a little older than that. I know appearances can be deceiving.
Yeah, slightly older. Yes.
No, but Jill raised a really good point, which is that having kids and therefore naming guardians via usually a will is kind of this big threshold that you can probably get away with not having a fully fledged out estate plan if you don't have kids. As we joke, as I've heard you say it, Joe, and OG, I've heard OG say it too. It's like the state has an estate plan for you, whether you realize it or not.
And it's not good.
Well, it might not be what you want it to be.
Well, that's what I mean, I guess, by not good.
Yeah,
maybe not specific
that's totally
enough.
fair. Right. Correct. Google whatever your state is and then the word intestacy laws, intestacy, if you want to figure out what your state's estate plan for you is. I forget what your exact prompt was, Joe, to send us down this path. As I was listening to Jordan and Jill, my thought was that it's actually kind of nice. This whole idea, and I was reading the article itself that said you should go back and review your estate plan every 3 to 5 years. The really nice thing is that you have to do the lion's share of the work up front. And then all you really have to do every 3 to 5 years is review the bare bones basics, just to say, does the flow of assets after my death still match my current day wishes? Do the beneficiaries I named 3 or 5 years ago still match my current day wishes? Are there any new accounts that exist today that didn't exist 3 to 5 years ago that now I need to include in my estate plan? My point is that the review process should be pretty simple once you've done the hard work up front. And I know we talk about the fact that it's no fun thinking about your own death, but it's important nonetheless. And the hard part is getting going. Laughing at another comment. The hard part is getting going in the first place.
Tony hanging out in the comments says, don't misspell when you're looking up intestacy. I believe that's what he's talking about.
It sounds like something you see the GI doctor for.
Dave Ramsey hanging out with us says, how is estate planning necessarily linked to retirement planning? I mean, truly, these are, Jill, I mean, these are two different things, but yet people will have regrets if you wait too long.
Yeah, I mean, I think this can be viewed as financial self-care. And I think there can be this misconception that this is only for the wealthy. But I think, Jesse, you already outlined kind of who exactly this is for, that it's for when we pass on, and making life a little easier for the people that we leave behind, those that we love, making sure that we've got peace of mind for ourselves until that time comes, but also for those who are going to need to handle and arrange all of the different aspects that we're leaving behind, which is separate from our own planning for retirement, the money that we're going to be living off of, the lifestyle that we're going to be leading. I mean, but both are necessary and part of retirement, but two kind of separate things.
Jill, let's stick with you because the next one nails your area of expertise. People regret not creating a budget for their retirement. And so I'm sure the first thing a lot of our stackers are, wait a minute, budget and retirement? Like, why is that so important?
Yeah, money is not going to be unlimited in retirement. I think this is the time of life when our spending is more than our earning, right? We're not working a job. Of course, we're living now off of the earnings of all of our investments. But I think there is a level of rigidity, for lack of a better word, that happens in retirement. We kind of have these set constraints that if we've not become accustomed to living within certain spending parameters, it can be a huge adjustment. And retirement just across the board is already a huge transition time. If I can pull in some of my social work, mental health background, anytime we go through a big transition, it impacts these very specific areas of our lives. I call them the 5 R's. So it's our roles, relationships, routines, reactions, and reflections. And I think particularly a spending plan or a budget intersects with really all of those. I think most acutely probably our routines, the ways that we are accustomed to spending money. So if we don't have a good plan in place that we've been exercising for decades, it's going to be a pretty big shock to us when we come down to this time when here is what I have to spend and how do I want to allocate that? So I think this is one of those pieces that we can be working on now that we're just going to be expert in retirement.
Jordan, it strikes me when you were talking earlier about not having the right asset allocation with your investments, like fixing that quickly is easy. Not having a spending plan, like Jill talks about, going from no spending plan to lockdown spending plan, like you're not going to do that overnight, even if you try.
Yeah, and I, if I may add something to the last conversation, because I feel like it needs to be said, I think estate planning and retirement planning are very connected because you're very vulnerable in retirement. So you really do want to think about estate planning because once you're in retirement and one spouse dies, you want to make sure that other spouse is taken care of. And conversations about things like Social Security, also, it's very important for legacy planning with Social Security because usually spouses don't die at the same time. Those are actually all very connected. Remember, retirement is a little bit more vulnerable because you don't have income from a job or a business usually. And so I think it's actually very important to plan those together. Now, as it comes to budgeting, I think the thing that people get budgeting wrong in retirement is that actually it should be variable. And in fact, often people spend more at the beginning of retirement and slow down from mid to late retirement. And so people who are nerdy like us and think about things like safe withdrawal rates may consider having a higher safe withdrawal rate in the first early years, depending on how the market does, so they can take those extra vacations. Like what happens when you retire? Everyone fixes up their house and they all go on a lot of vacations, which means your spending actually might go up early in retirement. But that also can be offset by the fact that after you settle in and do that house repair and get a little bit older and aren't as mobile, you actually might spend a lot less than you were planning on spending. You can actually have a variable budget in retirement. You can vary that based on how early and how young you are in retirement, as well as you can pay attention to things like how's the market doing and how much do I want to withdraw this year. And if you're careful about those things, you can probably maximize your spending better.
When you're trying to help somebody come up with their retirement number, Jesse, do you model what Doc G's talking about? Like, do you model the fact that you may, and this piece even talks about it, that you may spend less later in years in retirement than you do up front?
Oh, 100%. Every time I see in one of the DIY forums or Facebook pages, I see someone saying, I have $1 million. I'm using a 3.5% withdrawal rate. That is $35,000 per year. And I will now live on $35,000 per year for the next 50 years, no matter what. Like, my mind melts and my heart breaks a little bit because it's dynamic. It has to be dynamic. Life is dynamic. And every good retirement plan, I think, starts with a conversation about that dynamism, whether it's vacations, whether it's home improvements, whether it's, I've got 4 daughters and they're all going to reach marriage age in the next 10 years and we're going to be spending on weddings. Every single one. I guess when I look at the retirement planning software we use, it's kind of like a spreadsheet, but it looks much nicer. And the bottom row of every output page ends up being what that column's withdrawal rate is. Each column is a year. And I just like looking at that particular row sometimes because you'll see as high as 6 or 7% in some years, and then in the 2s or 3s other years. And over time, hopefully it does average out to some withdrawal rate that maybe the listeners today are more familiar with. But I guess my point is that you have to start with that cash flow.
Yeah.
Which is another way of saying a budget. You have to start with that budget or cash flow. That's the foundation of all financial planning, whether you're in retirement or not. Again, I'm not sure I've heard anybody really voice the regret that they didn't have a budget. I would say that CFPs will go to their clients and say, if you don't have a budget, I'm not exactly sure how I can do my job for you. That's definitely true. And for any DIYers out there, if you don't have a really good understanding of your cash flow or your budget, I'm not sure how you're going to plan your own retirement.
I think it doesn't come out as I regret not having a budget, Jesse, as much as it comes out that I wish I could do more. I wish there were more things I could do, which speaks, I think, a lot to budget.
Yeah.
I don't think they use these terms, which, Jill, you and Jen helped us kick off 2025 by talking about this very topic. And what I love about what the three of us discussed to kick off 2025, which seems like yesterday, by the way, that we were just starting this year, was you guys talked about it isn't just about looking at your cash flow, which is kind of what we're talking about here, but examining the pieces of your cash flow and going, do I really care about this? Like, I love the mindfulness of digging into your budget and asking, is this meaningful?
Yeah, we talk a lot about values-based spending, and I think that that's something that we've come to over the years. Certainly frugality is woven into that for us as the hosts of the Frugal Friends podcast, but recognizing that it's not this race to the bottom, but being able to manage our resources well in a way that we can feel really confident about. And I think, just tangibly speaking of what do I feel really good about spending money on? What brings me joy? What's life-giving? Where am I happy and not full of regret when I'm spending in this area? And where are there maybe some easy no's, right? We don't want to start with the most complicated area. We don't want to start with deprivation, which I think is where a lot of people begin in creating budgets. And it's just so ridiculous. It's kind of similar to all of the advice out there about minimizing or decluttering. Like, start with the junk drawer. Don't start with the mementos and the pictures of grandma. Like, begin with the things that are going to be easiest to cut, that don't mean hardly anything to you, and then move on from there with where else can I be trimming if necessary and spending more if necessary. I think especially with the audience that we talk to a lot, it's about how to spend. We can be really good at saving, but there's also this skill to knowing how to spend money well in a way that aligns with those values that we talked about, in a way that's congruent with our cash flow, and really sets us up to live a life that we actually want, not one that's just been marketed to us.
I love your, race to the bottom discussion. You can't shrink your way to greatness. Like having a great life is not about having less life, which brings up the last piece here, regret number 5, waiting too long to spend their money. I mean, let's go to not your current book, Jordan, speaking of books, but go back to Taking Stock. I mean, you kind of address this in that book.
I mean, a lot of people who spend time listening to podcasts like this one will probably die with excess money. And this gets back to what Jill was talking about. How do we spend in a way that's congruent with who we are, our values, et cetera? I'm a little bit different in the sense that I actually think we give too much credit to spending completely, right? So I think buying things gives us very short-term happiness that disappears fast. I think spending on experiences is probably a little bit better, and there's some great data about how that has a little bit longer lasting effect on happiness than spending on things. Ultimately, I think the spending that really is great for us is when we spend on becoming a better version of ourselves, right? So it frees us to do the things that really light us up. It frees us to connect with the people we want to connect with. Maybe it makes life a little easier. It is really hard to die with zero, right? The Bill Perkins die with zero. It's really, really hard to do that. And I don't think we should beat ourselves up for not getting there. But I also think we probably shouldn't die with 10 million either. I think we've got to find a happy medium in which we're not stressing about whether we're spending too much or too little, but we're using that money in ways to really try to make our lives as better as possible. Getting rid of things we don't like, spending consistent with our values, becoming a better version of ourselves, being generous and helping other people. Like these are all really good uses of our money that probably do move the needle when it comes to happiness.
Jill, it also strikes me as Jordan's talking, you probably have 2 different types of people that listen to your show, people that feel like they need to be more frugal, right? But you also have these people that, frugality is the name of the game. Like there have to be some hoarders in your audience. They're like, I'm not spending a dime.
This is the frugal person's problem for sure.
Yeah.
And I can see it in myself too, that I think this would be the way that I lean of waiting too long to spend the money. I'd rather keep it, hoarded in my freezer than pull it out and use it. So we really need to take stock of what is enough. I think that that's an important conversation, curiosity to have with ourselves of, what do I want and what is going to be enough to get me there? And how do I want to utilize that, as Jordan's describing, this tool, this resource? How do I want to manage this in a way that is very intentional, that isn't full of deprivation? And I think it's going to require a bit of some reframing for those of us who might lean in this direction of, it's not that I'm spending down my savings, but I'm using what I intentionally set aside. And again, that's going to be a total shift when we talk about transition. When we are retiring, that's a transition from working years to retiring years, to our expectations of self, our view of self, the way that we relate with the world and those around us. And so I don't think we can expect this to just shift overnight, but I do think that there can be some mindset changes that happen as we go to be able to make that transition as smoothly as possible and be as gracious with ourselves as possible, while recognizing I saved up this money for a purpose.
Yeah, there was a reason.
And I have defined my enough, and I know what my plan is, and I'm educated on the numbers, and there is permission for me to do with this what I have decided to do.
What I took from all of that, Jill, was that you keep your money in the freezer.
That's where my grandmother kept her money. She thought she would, this is not uncommon for those
cold cash,
who lived through the Great Depression, but yeah, cold hard cash.
Cold hard cash. Jesse, geeking out kind of about what Jill's talking about, it also strikes me that if you are frugal and you do intentional spending, like this feels to me like the type of stuff that you write about consistently. You're going to, number one, have to save less money because of the fact that you're only spending intentionally. Number two is your tax issues are going to be much less because of the fact that,
Yeah.
you're not as worried. Well, like and your asset allocation could be a little sloppier. Like there's so many benefits to being frugal that work out in your financial plan.
Oh, 100%. It is funny. If you find joy in a very frugal lifestyle, then like more power to you. Why complicate it from there? And to some extent, I would also argue like if you're a person who is spending too much, I'm going to echo what both Doc G and Jill said here. Like if you're a person who's spending too much, are you sure you're getting joy out of that extra spending? Because on average, the data might say otherwise.
But if you had clients though, where you had to say, loosen up, like, cause I had clients where I had to say, you know what?
Yeah.
Like Jill said, you accumulate this money for a reason. Let's live.
It's a touchy topic though. And one thing I'm learning firsthand is that there's so many really interesting topics that are also touchy topics. I mean, estate planning can be one of them. The idea of loosening the purse strings can be another one of them. When someone is sitting there fearful of what's going on in the market or fearful of what's going on in society, you don't want to just beat them over the head with statistics about don't time the market. It's timing. It's time in the market. It's the first step is to, I think, say like, I hear you and I feel what you're feeling and I totally get it. And so if someone is not spending enough money, there are some really good conversations to be had about why that is. And if they realize they could be spending more, if they feel some sort of like insecurity or they feel some sort of, what is it? It's not abundance mindset, scarcity mindset.
Scarcity.
So there's some really good conversations to have, like preliminary conversations before just saying like, you know what, Joe, like this is kind of dumb. You should be spending some more money. I know that's callous. It's more callous than any one of us would put it out there. But my point is
you tell it to me that way. You would say it that way.
It's one of many very interesting, but also sensitive subjects to bring up in financial planning, but an important one nonetheless.
You know what I've also noticed too is I run a mastermind and we talk lots about money and enough. And one thing that I've actually learned is it's not that people aren't spending enough. It's they're accumulating too much. So I see a lot of people who are getting to the end of a career that they don't enjoy. And they're sticking around to accumulate more, not because they actually need the more, but because they're afraid and they don't have a good understanding of enough. And so what happens is they lose years of freedom, right? Instead of being home doing things they love to do, they're working at a job they don't like. So it's not even almost sometimes that they're not spending enough. It's that they're accumulating too much. And in the process of accumulating, they're keeping themselves from doing things they might enjoy.
Which is sad because I think a lot of the time, especially Jill, very frugal people, like they over feel the expenses, but they underfeel this other limited resource of time, the fact that I don't have time. But well, speaking of time, I think this is a great time to end this chat. This survey of 5 things that a retirement planner says that they would regret in 5 years. And Jesse, I think I'm with you. I don't think people are phrasing these, I'm going to regret these 5 things, but still, I think overall pretty good list.
I agree. I mean, it is a good list. Like these are nothing here reinventing the wheel, but like fundamentals that any retiree ought to be aware of.
And hopefully, Stackers, you were able to take away 1 or 2 good things that you would have never heard on the How to Money podcast. Not once. This is going to be the funnest month, raising more money than Joel and Matt for our 501c. I mean, we're helping kids and we get to make fun of Joel and Matt, which is great. All right, let's find out what's going on where all you guys are, because you know what the next thing to do is, Stackers? We talked about listening to the podcast, reading the books, doing the stuff. Well, these people have been doing all that fine work. So Jill, let's start off over at Frugal Friends. What are you and Jen up to this crazy month of November?
Yeah, we've got lots of episodes coming out on YouTube. So we've been really going heavy at video recording ourselves. So that's been really fun. People can follow us on YouTube. And we've still got our new book out. We released our book this year, Buy What You Love Without Going Broke. So that's a good one as well, just for kind of learning the skill of spending.
Yeah. And I love the piece of it that we spoke about just a little bit today of thinking about what do I really value, much more than trying to shrink your life. What do I actually value, and spending that way? And that's at the Frugal Friends podcast, where finer podcasts are found. Finer podcast, like Jesse's podcast, which has 15 different names, but we'll call it the Personal Finance for Long-Term Investors podcast. How about that? I got it right this week.
That was pretty good.
Thank you.
One of many different names. You're right. One of many different names. It's like Gandalf in Lord of the Rings. Depending on where he is, he goes by
The
different
gray,
names.
the white.
Gandalf Greyhaim, Mithrandir. We're going deep there.
Wow.
What's going on Personal Finance for Long-Term Investors? We've got a cool episode coming up with a professor who specializes in the marketing of debt, really like financing and mortgages. And so that one's coming up next week. Then we'll have an AMA episode and then a deep dive episode the day before Thanksgiving coming out. And it's all about health around the holidays because, health and wealth are two sides of the same coin. And so, while you're eating your third piece of pecan pie, you can
you're not
tune
going to
in.
tell me to eat better over the holidays, are you, Scrooge?
You'll have to listen and find out.
Man, and that is at the Personal Finance for Long-Term Investors podcast, where finer shows like Frugal Friends are found and awesome shows like Earn and Invest. What's going on at Earn and Invest in November, Jordan?
Just before this comes out on Thursday, I have Beth Pinsker on. She's a journalist at Market Watch, and she wrote a book called My Mother's Money, all about exactly what we talked about with estate planning. She helped her mother through a chronic illness and managed her finances before and after her death. And she goes deep on what you need to know about managing a parent's finances.
Wow. And I would think consequently then your own.
Very much so.
Yeah. And that is it. The Earn and Invest podcast, also where finer podcasts are found. Let's say a big thank you before we say goodbye to all of our friends hanging out with us on YouTube. Guys, you guys were amazing as usual. Nice job. Give yourself a big pat on the back. Let's, though, turn it over to Doug. I don't know why I turned over to Doug and asked this question. Doug, what are our takeaways? What's on our to-do list for today's show?
Well, Joe and everybody else, buckle up. It's about to get a bit bumpy. First, take some advice that Jill shared at the beginning of the show. Your budget should be like an Olympic gymnast.
What?
Agile,
No.
agile, and flexible. Second, remember what Jesse said about estate plans. You could probably get away without having an estate plan if you don't have testes, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't have one, especially if you want to specify who gets your Magic the Gathering cards. But the big lesson? If you see a meteor hurtling through the sky, like in today's trivia, don't bother telling Joe's mom. She'll remind you that the real fireball is locked in the pantry. And no, you can't drink any of it until after Jeopardy. She wants to beat you while you're sober so she can brag to her friends down at the biker bar that she beat you fair and square. Thanks to Jill Siriani for joining us today. You'll find Jill's Frugal Friends podcast wherever you're listening to us now. We'll also include links in our show notes at stackingbenjamins.com. Thanks to Doc G for hanging out with us today. You'll find his insightful podcast, Earn and Invest, wherever you listen to finer podcasts. And finally, we've got Jesse in the top of the mountain position. When you're the last credit, that means you are sitting in the catbird seat, man. Thanks to the Jesse Cramer for joining us today. You'll find Jesse's Totally Fly podcast, Personal Finance for Long-Term Investors, wherever you listen to this show and Jill's show and even Doc G's show. All the shows, you get them all right there. This show is the property of SB Podcasts, LLC, copyright 2025, and is created by Saul-Sehy. Joe gets help from a few of our neighborhood friends. You'll find out about our awesome team at stackingbenjamins.com, along with the show notes and how you can find us on YouTube and all the usual social media spots. Come say hello. Oh yeah, and before I go, not only should you not take advice from these nerds, don't take advice from people you don't know. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Before making any financial decisions, speak with a real financial advisor. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and we'll see you next time back here at the Stacking Benjamin Show.